Hi, this is Lee from Fondant and Apron Strings in sunny Starnet. We are a very small cake cafe, but predominantly we make cakes for all occasions. I'm going to show you today how to cover a cake to look like a wooden tree trunk. I'm showing you here some tools I'm going to be using. So I've got a little brush there with some water. I've got, ignore those, they are for a later thing. A tool for making marks in. I have some fondant which I've covered a nice brown. I haven't actually made the brown, I sort of marbled the brown rather than made it all one tone. You can see me there what happens. I've covered this cake in white chocolate ganache because that's what the customer wanted. Normally we use milk Belgian chocolate, but this is what the customer wanted there. So I'll show you at the end of this video what the cake looked like. But this is a really fantastic technique that you can use on children's cakes, on adults' cakes. So once you've got the cake in place, put a little bit of water on it. Don't drench it because fondant and water don't mix. And then you can get your fondant and just squidge it into a little tube there and push it into place. What you're trying to do is make the piece of fondant you're working with sort of overlap a little bit of the previous one. And because it's going to look like a tree stump, it doesn't have to be level at the top, so we're looking for it to sort of stick up a little bit. And just keep pushing it into place and moulding it while it's still soft. And my thing with this sort of technique, and we use it quite a lot on various things, is you can't manipulate it too much. The reason I showed you the very small brush earlier on and the bottle with looked like brown paint, which sort of it was brown food colouring with added vodka. Yes, we do use a lot of vodka in the shop. I tend to buy a lot of vodka from Aldi and Lidl and things like that. I'm sure people think I'm an alcoholic, whereas actually I don't drink at all. But we do a lot of painting in our shop. So if you're using, if you don't want to buy edible paint, what you can do is just use your food colouring and add little bits of vodka to it. Don't add water, because what happens is the water won't evaporate. It just makes the fondant really soggy. So vodka, because it's alcohol, will evaporate and just leave the paint behind. So I always tend to have a little bottle of brown mixed with vodka because we use a lot of that. So that's what I would be doing on top of this wood effect, this log effect, after I've left it to dry for a little bit, but I don't think this video shows you that. And as you can see, I'm still manipulating the pieces of fondant as I go around, of sugar paste as I go around. And I've used the scribing tool, and I'm going to show you now, to make lots and lots of wood marks in there. And go crazy, you know. It's an old stump. Make it look like an old stump. So I'm pushing it into the fondant. And the fondant's very pliable. It's actually, I remember making this cake and loved making this cake, but the day was really hot. And as you can see in the background, there's a piece of what I've got the fondant wrapped in, which is a plastic bag, because fondant doesn't like air, doesn't like water, so you have to keep it airtight if you're going to use it. And you can see the fan, which I've got aimed at the cake and at me, sort of making the plastic bag whiz around. And I'm just going back because, just like I said, just go crazy overboard. A little bit more water for the next one. This is a really strange video to do because I'm talking away at this video, and I'm very aware that this is a just over 20-minute video, and all it is me doing this. So do feel free to fast forward if you'd like to, because it's just me putting this on there, and it's not until you see the end that you'll see what the result is. Can you see on that little piece of fondant I'm doing there, because I haven't mixed the brown in completely, we've got patches of darker food colouring in there, and that's great because it just adds to the whole overall effect. See, that's so cool, and I'll probably point it out because that's what you do. And also on the top of that cake, the bottom tier of the cake, I have, before I put the top tier on the bottom tier, I covered that with a circle of fondant as well, and just etched circles in the top of the fondant, just to make it look like the cut end of a tree trunk. And you can actually see there that I've used the paint on there. That was actually white fondant, so I didn't colour it the brown, and that's the paint, the edible paint I've used on there. So it's quite effective. But if you are going to paint this, and you don't need to, if you get it nice and marbled, oh, I love that bit of brown there. Just adjusting, always adjusting. You can just leave it as is, but if you are going to use the paint, like I say, just practice on a little bit of fondant that you've rolled out on a work board or something first before you go onto the cake. But what you do is just put a light wash all over with a nice, just an ordinary paintbrush, a nice wash all over your fondant, and then you with the paint, and then go back with a little deeper colour of the paint, so maybe adding a little bit of more paint to the vodka, or if you're very brave, just use the food colouring itself, and then use a wet alcohol brush, not dipped in vodka, to sort of like smear the food colouring around, and you get into all the crevices and things like that, and it looks like looks more and more like a tree. So I'm just going to stop talking now and let you just watch this, unless I can think of something other. Oh, please subscribe and follow us, because like I say, sometimes I think I'm just talking to myself. And the reason I started these DVDs, just pointing out there where I haven't made the colour all blend in, and it looks really cool. The reason I started these videos because I don't really have that much time to do classes anymore, which I really miss. And also I got a little bit fed up of going onto YouTube and seeing all these amazing skilled people, but with perfect makeup and perfect lighting and very, very clean hands. And I just wanted people to know, ordinary people to know, who are making cakes for family and friends, that you can do a lot of wonderful things to your cake and make them look fantastic and professional, without lots of money, and also without, in the real world, it's not, people don't have clean hands and things like that. So that's why I did this. So I hope they're helpful. So please subscribe, because it does feel like I'm talking to myself, or my kids are just the only ones watching it. Yeah. What I'm doing is, because I know exactly what I'm going to be doing to the top tier, and you'll see at the end of the cake, it's quite an intricate cake, and I just thought that was a little bit too sticky out there, so I just wanted to trim that little bit off, and that was me just brushing the excess fondant off there, little crumbs of fondant, and I'm just going to keep going around here. If you look on this, you can see what I'm trying to do is obviously work all the way around in pieces. There's lots and lots of techniques of making a wooden a cake look like a wooden tree, and I do use all of them, and next time I will show you a different one. But this, I just wanted to particularly show this one because it's just fun. It is fun. But if you look at, as I go around, you'll see that there's already a piece on there. So what happens is, find the back and the front of your cake, and you'll be able to find it. You'll just know which is the back and the front, and put your first piece, your trial piece, at the back, and give that a go, and just see how that works and how you can manipulate it, which is what I've done there. I just wanted to see how much fondant I would need to use, how high I wanted to go above the cake itself to make it look like a proper tree, all of that sort of thing. So just give it a go, and then you just find the front and start to work from the front to meet that, and then just keep going down round. Again, please don't put too much water on there. It does look like I'm wiping a lot of water on there, but what I've done is I dipped it in the water and I've shaken it off and tapped it on some paper. You can also use edible glue. I wouldn't just use edible glue for this, just because you need a lot really, and it doesn't make any difference. If you're using buttercream underneath this technique rather than ganache, you can do exactly the same sort of thing. Just again use water, a tiny little bit of water just to stick it. Make sure that when you're trying to overlap it to the piece of fondant beforehand, you've dampened that as well, because otherwise what will happen is you won't be able to blend them so much, so it'll look more like a seam rather than a nice blended tree. And you can see I'm really going to town. The more you do this, the more you realise that you can just put loads of divots in there. So this tier, and I'm working fairly quickly, just covering the tier in this technique took me just over 20 minutes. And basically I'm in a working cafe here. So, and I think what I've done with this is, so I do work fairly quickly, but even if this is your first time, it'll probably take you no more than 45 minutes once you've given it a couple of goes. So I think my point is, don't feel like you have to spend hours and hours on something to make things look fabulous. What I did like about this cake was the lovely lady who we made the cake for. I'm just showing you that there's the back, and that's the first one we did, and all that sort of thing, all the stuff I said. And I'm going back over it and making it more divoty and softening the edges so they can be blended to the next one. So the lovely lady I made this cake for, we made her wedding cake, and the wedding cake had a Totora theme, T-O-T-O-R-O, I believe. I had no idea what this is. I'm sure everybody out there does know what it is, and I had to make these lovely Totoras for the top. And she liked the wedding cake so much that she wanted this for her birthday, and I think it was a big birthday, although nothing's as big as the birthdays I'm coming up to, but it was a young big birthday. And so this is a Totora themed birthday cake, 2 tiers. So she was quite specific about the flavours of the cake. She really just wanted the same flavours as she had for her wedding cake, but she wanted me to just use my imagination and go for the Totora theme. So you'll see when you see the pictures at the end of this video that I've made tree for the top, and I've got Totoras in there and other things that I have no idea remember what they're called now, and little black things which are very significant to that whole animation. And I had to ask my kids what they were, which is really, that happens quite a lot. Sometimes when I've got children's cakes to make, I'll have to go researching on the internet, because my kids are very old now, although they will not love me for saying that, and they're not very old. I think it's just I'm very old, but they're older than watching children's TV. So sometimes I'll get a theme for a cake and I've no idea what it is, so I have to sort of go researching on the internet, and it's really interesting because it keeps me up to date. My favourite cakes are when somebody just gives me says, look, here's a theme, go with it, and that's my favourite. Or our tribute cakes, which I just love to make. Our tribute cakes are probably the most personal cakes we ever make. They're particularly fabulous for late birthdays, as in 50, 60, 70, all that sort of thing. When we've had a lot of experiences and life has sort of left us with lots of memories, and what happens is family and friends will email me pictures or ideas of hobbies and things they love. I was just pointing out there the different sides of this tool, and this is probably the most used tool. So if you're going to buy any tools at all, this is probably the one that I would suggest, because we use this for so many different things. Yeah, so the tribute cakes. So, and I make everything into edible cake decorations, which is really cool. And they're very, very personal. So it's a 360 thing. And if you look at our website, www.fondantandapronstrings.com, then I'm just showing you the top there, which I've already told you about. So I covered it in white fondant and then used this tool to make some lines, and then I painted it with our vodka and edible food colouring. Yes, so if you go to www.fondantandapronstrings.com, you'll see lots of tribute cakes on there. Don't judge me on the website. Somebody wonderful did the website, but I do need to update it with some more photographs. But you'll see the sort of cakes that we can do here. But I think tribute cakes are probably my favourite because I just get to do crazy things and also makes people smile. And that's what cake's about. I think it was Julia Child who said, a party without cake is just a meeting, and I truly believe that. I do think that if you're going to have a cake from us or commission anybody, any cake designer to have a cake, I would always suggest to just make it something memorable, rather than, I mean, you can go to the local supermarket and get a cake that you can just cut, but if you're going to have a cake, a special cake, make it a memorable cake. So as you can see, I'm just literally putting in piece after piece of this, a little bit of water, blending it into the last piece, making sure that I have the right thickness on the top to make it look like a log, and that it's not flat against the top, so it sort of sticks up a little bit. And you can bend that, and to make it look real, and then go into crazy town with this tool. So we've got lots of notches in it, lots of scrapes in it, and if you're going to paint that would all those bits would come out. Just highlights it. Not too much water, remember. Again, please subscribe, please like, all of that sort of stuff. Come into our cake cafe in Stanhope if you're ever in sunny Stanhope. We're in County Durham. If you have any questions about anything, just email or do whatever you do on these things to ask questions. I have no idea what you do. Like I say, I just think people might be interested in this, in the real life cakes. I'm very open to asking questions, and if you have tips and things like that. Once you put all of these pieces of fondant on, you've got to remember that these cakes are very heavy that we make, because we do a lot of detail on our cakes. So this is a cake filled with buttercream, and we have 25 flavours of our sponge cake. So you can have each cake can be different flavours, whether it's the wedding cake or a celebration cake. And then we covered it in chocolate ganache, white or milk, Belgian chocolate. And then we put these fondant on, and everything weighs a lot. So if people pick up these cakes, sometimes we ask to deliver. We always deliver wedding cakes and set them up, but most times celebration cakes are picked up. It's really interesting because we sort of go through this tick list of how to transport it and all that sort of thing. And I think people are always surprised how heavy it is. You can see how much fondant is going on there. Looks like I'm going to put the last piece there, and then I'm going to show you how to make a nice big, I'm not quite sure what it's called. I want to call notch, but it isn't a notch. You'll see what it is. Just to add another dimension to the cake, rather than just have a flat log. So let's pop this bit on and then I'll show you. Follow us on Facebook as well, and also Instagram. Oh, what else do we do? And you can see the last bit going around. What is nice about this, you don't really need lots of experience to do this technique. You just need to be brave about it. So like I say, it's a really great technique for children's cakes as well as adults. Okay, so this might be, here we go. So I'm going to do it. So just checking it's all how I want it to be. Give it a bit more texture. So here you are, nice big ball of your fondant, then sort of flatten both ends, and like I say, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to be a little piece of wood. Add a little bit of the water, not too much. Find maybe the front of your cake or the front side of your cake, and then pop this on. Can you see I'm just pushing it down, and then I'm going to blend it in so it sticks but looks as if it's part of the cake. Again, adds another dimension to it. Yeah, because my hand, you can't see that now. There we go. Okay, can you see what I've done? Yeah, so I'm pushing it in, blend it so it looks like it's part of the whole tree, and then we're gonna mark the front of it to look like it's a limb of the tree that's been cut off. So make little circles around it. And again, when you do your painting, if you're going to do that, pay particular attention to these marks, and they'll just sort of really pop out. So it looks like an old piece, an old limb that's been cut off. Just play with it until you find the shape you want it to be, you know. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope this helped. Have a great day. Please, again, subscribe and like and do all of that sort of thing. Like I say, sometimes it feels like I'm just talking to myself. Find us on fondantandapronstrings.com. That's our website. Comment and come into a cake cafe and eat some of our wonderful cakes. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope this was really useful. Thank you so much.